Hi, everybody! We're back for the second week of my live reading of Princess of Death. For those of you who left your comments on chapter 1 last week, thank you so much. I loved hearing your thoughts, both on the previous version and compared to this new version. So I think you're going to really like it because I haven't changed the story entirely, but there's just enough that's different. I can't wait to see what you think about it. Like I promised before, I did offer a giveaway, and I'm excited to announce the winner of the giveaway today. This is, again, a paperback giveaway of your choice, anything written by me, both either my Cortney Pearson or my Caitlin Meadows names. You can pick any of my paperbacks. So, congratulations. I put your names into random.org. And the randomly selected winner is Sherry Yaich 7998, and I super apologize if I totally slaughtered your handle. So congratulations! I'm going to put my email in the description of this video, and I would love to have you let me know, first of all, what address you want me to send the paperback to and which book you would like to have signed to you. So thanks again so much. Yay! And as promised, here's chapter 2. "What's your face veiled for?" the girl who opened the door asked once the two of them were inside. She yanked Callie's scarf from its place. Callie startled as if she'd been slapped. While she appreciated the ability to breathe without any kind of covering, the girl was forward. "Oh, You're a servant, not a lady," the girl said, rolling her eyes. "And no one here is impressed by you putting on airs." She pointed down a long hallway. "If you're here to help with the feast, you can change in there. I'd suggest doing so before Ayat catches you." "Who is Ayat?" Callie asked, but the serving girl had already rejoined the tumultuous bustle in the servants' ward. The sound of clanging metal chimed from somewhere down the hall. Men and women hurried past, speaking under their breath and carrying trays laden with decadent, thickly sliced meat, garnished with leaves and ruby-red cherry tomatoes. The aromas wafted to Callie and pricked her empty stomach. She hadn't eaten since the night before, since she'd pushed her way through the death smothering her countryside to find Lyric. Callie attempted to tread along the uncarpeted floor in the direction the girl had pointed, but she was stopped by passing men in dark suits and white gloves following after the ladies. Each of them carried more trays and chattered among themselves in quiet tones. She couldn't take in their words, but suspicion began creeping in. The guards at the gate had mocked Callie for wanting to join a feast. Were they preparing for some kind of celebration? Did whatever this event was have something to do with the scoundrel she'd left outside? "And get that message delivered before I get back. Had to send for more staff on such short notice. What were they thinking?" A stern, plump woman with white hair and a tight bun backed into the room Callie stood in. She wore a black high-necked dress hidden by a dirtied apron. Her eyes widened with ferocity in Callie's direction. "You! You must be among the new staff they've sent. What are you standing around for?" "Oh, Callie was at a loss for words. Before she could come up with an answer, the woman herded her and several other young ladies through the heady rush of servants and into a separate room bare of anything much aside from its white stone walls and several stacked barrels. "Hurry now," the woman snarled, indicating the row of what looked like black cloaks hanging from hooks on the opposite wall. "Get into your uniforms and get back out here." She left them as quickly as she'd come, closing the door behind her. Wordlessly, the young ladies slipped from their simple dresses, sliding them over the skirts of their underclothes. Callie wasn't sure whether to look away or pretend she was one of them. She decided on the latter, moving close enough to speak low to the girl nearest her. "Are we in Lunai Lumen?" Callie asked. The girl's dark brows snapped down. Her gaze questioned Callie's sanity. "Where'd you think we were? The moon?" The other girls laughed, so the first young lady rolled her eyes at them and went on. "Are we in Lunai Lumen? Honestly, we're only working in the Ruddy Palace." More laughter followed. Callie fought the burning in her cheeks. She couldn't care that this laughter was at her expense. "Then please, can you tell me where I can find the gardens?" The request sounded ludicrous even to her own ears, but she didn't care. Once she got the plants she needed, she'd never have to see any of these people again. At that thought, she removed the list Lyric had given her from her pocket and held it in her fist. "You're mad," the thick-browed girl gaped mockingly at the others. "Who does she think she is? A visiting dignitary?" "Certainly, darling. We'll escort you to the gardens, right after we seat you at the table with the king." She burst into snorting laughter, clearly enjoying being the center of attention at Callie's expense. Callie ignored the girl's ridicule, her heart sinking. Lyric had made the task of locating the gardens sound simple. She was starting to realize it was anything but. The plump woman bustled in once more and snapped harshly behind them, clapping her hands loudly. "Come, come! The banquet will wait for no one," she barked. Her attention flicked to Callie, and the fury in her wide eyes increased. "Why is it you haven't dressed? Are you daft, girl? Get in uniform or the king will have your head as well as mine." Callie couldn't exactly walk away now, not when this woman had her in her sights. A lump rose in her throat. She wasn't inclined to leave her dress here, the way the other girls had exchanged their shabby dresses for pristine black serving attire. But what did a fine dress matter? "You have a matter of days," she told herself. She would do what she had to find what she needed. "Move along, or this feast will be in ruins." "Take this one here," said a girl with a pleasant face, thin cheeks, dainty eyes, and a rosebud mouth. She pointed to a dress and took. Kindness that had been vacant from the other girls lingered in her eyes. "It won't be missed." "Thank you," Callie said. Perfect. Making a friend here could only help her cause. Perhaps this girl could at least tell Callie where the guards were located. Callie seized the dress and changed, lost in a whirl of thought. So much had happened in such a short amount of time. Her body had healed instantly in this place, whose very air was magic, just as Lyric said it would. Did that mean no one got sick here? How could that be? She paused at the realization while a chorus of chills sang across her skin. She had healed instantly. The scent of cooking food, the bustling servants very much alive and in peak health as her people had once been, a banquet being held. Callie had crossed the boundary. She was in Lunae Lumen, and there was no necrosis here, which meant there was still hope. Undine, take it, there was still hope. Callie fastened the dress's buttons hastily, brushing away stray hairs from her face, and stuffing Lyric's list of plants into the pocket once more. The rest of her hair remained in its braid. "You must be new here," the kind girl said, giving Callie a pleasant smile and reaching out in a comforting way. "My name is Lenora." "I'm Anna. It's Anna," Callie said, correcting herself. She didn't want anyone else mocking her the way the guards outside had. Lenora smiled. "The trays you'll need to retrieve are in the kitchen, just down the hall here." She pointed in its direction. "Speak to no one, either as you enter or as you leave, or if something is asked of you. Set the trays on the rear table in the dining hall, and then stand by to refill goblets, retrieve fallen napkins, or see to other minor mishaps." Callie's nerves raced with tense agitation, but she was grateful for the girl's suggestions. She'd interacted with servants often enough, but hadn't given much thought to their comings and goings. She gave herself a mental note to give her staff more credit once she returned home. Moments later, she followed Lenora out the door and into another large room. Large, simple wooden counters angled on the room's longest side. Silver trays of food were piled high on the counter's every surface, some stacked with gelatines and vegetable salads, others offering roasted pheasants garnished with potatoes. A series of rotund bowls held pools of mouth-watering soups, while serving dishes of finest porcelain waited on the side, ready to be used. Uncertain of which to choose, Callie selected a tray beset with bowls of potatoes. Heat collected in her palms beneath the tray. The divine smell of butter, onions, and herbs blended in a perfect concoction. Again her stomach rumbled. Lenora and the other young ladies scurried up a set of stairs. Callie did her best to keep pace, grateful when they emerged into a lavish banquet hall filled with people. Instrumentalists were collected in one corner. They held stringed guitars with long necks, and the tinkling music drifting from them teased Callie to slow down a bit more and enjoy the sounds. Where her palace back home had been square and circumspect, adorned with red carpets and white flowers, this palace was all bulging curves that narrowed to bleak angles at the tips of columns and along the ceilings. Shutters were cast open high overhead to allow sunlight to join the festivities. And the colors! Vibrant, luscious colors painted the drapes of fabric swooping from the columns. Purples and teals and pinks, the shade of blushing cheeks and secret admirations. Open balconies yawned behind the guests, offering glimpses of the restless sea outside. She hurried to place her tray alongside the others on a buffet table behind the line of draperied columns, before joining the other servants along the wall. It wasn't long ago when Callie's parents had announced her coronation at such a banquet, where she had been seated beside her father and mother at the head of the room, while noble men and women gathered to celebrate and enjoy a fine meal. and now she was on the sidelines carrying food instead of waiting to be served. At every banquet she'd attended for all of her 18 years, she'd never considered how difficult it was for her staff to stand by while everyone else indulged themselves. The notion was difficult, but she was here for a reason. She was a princess. This wasn't her true role. She had to keep reminding herself of that. The king sat at the head of the assembly, his crown glinting in the sunlight, as though he'd chosen that spot for that exact reason. Callie's heart took flight. Even if the peasants in this kingdom didn't believe Zara was real, their king would be educated enough to know of her kingdom and recognize her seal, wouldn't he? She had only to figure out how to present herself to him. He was dark both in hair and demeanor, glaring at his guests as though wondering why they were there. A beautiful young woman sat on his right, her hair similar to Callie's raven black locks, and set off by a glistening tiara. She wore an enchanting indigo gown with translucent opals decorating her throat, and a thin gossamer veil covered the lower half of her face. Behind the king, another set of doors overlooked a glorious view of the ocean. Callie paused for a moment, her breath catching. 4 years before, she'd sworn never to set foot near the sea again, but their ocean back in Zara had never been this blue. From this vantage point, she remembered the scoundrel's words about the sea being as easy to tame as a woman. Ugh, the arrogance. Even still, when not being goaded by him, she found she had a sudden longing to escape, to be swallowed by the ocean's proximity, to feel its spray on her skin as she once had when she had sailed to the boundary with her father years before. Other servants moved about, serving food and waiting tables, all while urgency tapped its feet within her. Servants not being allowed in the gardens meant she needed a way to approach the king and speak to him herself. She bent her head toward Lenora, ready to ask about the possibility when a gentle pinging captured the room's attention. The king rose from his place, lowering his goblet and the fork he'd used to tinkle against it. "Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to our home on this remarkable day. It is fitting for the sun to shine as it does, for no other weather would be so perfect to announce the ascension of my daughter, Soraya Kailani Cressida, as crowned princess of Lunai Lumen." Callie exhaled with a gust of relief as applause broke out among the guests. If she'd still been looking for confirmation, this was it. She was in the right place. The young woman beside her father beamed. His dark expression lifted into a pleasant smile as though the thoughts that had been troubling him vanished, taking his surly demeanor with them. He offered the Princess Soraya a hand, inviting her to her feet. Color flooded the top of the girl's pallid cheeks, her skin almost too pale, like Callie's. Yet she stood, eyes wide in light of the attention. Had Callie appeared as innocent and deserving of her position as this girl did? Callie had felt nothing but pride, mingled with fear during her banquet. This princess faced her people's attention with a sense of gratitude. "And of course you are all welcome to attend the ceremony. The coronation will take place on the eve of Soraya's 18th birthday, in 4 days' time." The reminder banged like a gong. 4 days. Callie only had 5 days herself to retrieve the plants and figure out her way home. The affairs of this kingdom were none of her concern. She needed to get moving. More cheering broke out. Callie racked her brain, waiting for a distraction that would give her the chance to approach the king. She prepared to take advantage of the crowd's distraction and stand before him, perhaps show her ring. Callie wove through the collection of tables, boldly marching toward the head table. The king's dark gaze locked with hers. His brows drew together, and the look they exchanged was more than a passing glance between king and servant. He examined her, almost as though he'd seen her before, but was trying to place where or how. Unnerved, her steps stilled. Callie felt as though she were in some kind of dream, as if she were standing somewhere fully exposed without knowing how she'd gotten there. The sound of rustling clothing and scuffling boots sounded behind her. She turned without thinking, losing her lock on the king. Men and women, newcomers, unkempt and unruly, with distrust in their gazes and no good in their grins, stood along the banquet hall's walls. Uneasy at the new arrivals, Callie moved out of the room's center and back to the sidelines beside Lenora. With their dirty, ragged clothes, these intruders certainly didn't fit in with the rest of the nobles in their finery. They looked more scoundrel than safeguard. Their attire didn't match the black-hued fabric worn by the palace staff, either. Even though the guests continued applauding, Callie caught Lenora's eye, and the tension in the other girl's expression told her just enough. These people were trespassers. Their arrival wasn't part of the meal's entertainment, and they were about to bring a fair amount of trouble indeed. Okay, so that's chapter 2. I would love to know your thoughts. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think of how things are going so far. I also want you to tell me how many chapters you want next time. Is 1 enough per week? Do you want 2 per week? Let me know in the comments. And thanks so much. You guys have a great week.